recording and let's go.
Metti grande perché sennò si vede.
Okay. Oh, wait a second. Let's go live in 3, 2, 1. And there we go.
Okay, perfect.
Wait a few seconds that everything goes in. And here we are. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Hello, guys. How's it going? Good to speak to you.
Yeah, that's great for us to speak with you too. We're all good here.
Yeah.
Pisa, sunny day. What about you?
Malta, yeah. I've been working all day, and it's been a bit overcast and cloudy, but yeah, I'm keeping busy. And yeah, I like to switch between all the different things. Sometimes I'm working on the computer doing Unreal development. I've actually reinstalled Unity as well to open up an older project.
Okay.
I've got a VR headset behind me, so I've been testing VR. I've got my music stuff in the corner as well, so if I want to like jam out some tunes, then I can just like
We
do that as well.
want to see it later.
Yeah.
Because it kind of,
Yeah.
for who is watching us, kind of know that Steve has two personalities, one for the music and one for for everything that is regarding games and real-time technologies. So we're going to explore all these things because that is the particular thing that you're really passionate about. A lot of things you're really into, a lot of things, and try to explore them. You're really curious, and that is something that really characterizes you, and the way you do business. And you created you actually decimated in your game company. So I think that we can go with Steve, presenting a little bit yourself and telling us what you do with Decimated and all the amazing things.
Sure. So I'm the CEO and creative director of Fracture Labs, which is my own company that I set up in 2018 to develop this game Decimated that you mentioned, which is an open world survival role-playing game in a cyberpunk universe. We're currently in pre-alpha stage of development. I've been working in the games industry for around 13, almost 14 years. And, I did previously have quite a serious involvement with music production before I started working in games. I released a lot of records back in the day, like electro, techno, and trip hop music, and also an album in 2009. But yeah, since I pivoted into video game development, I've just been doing music as a hobby over the last sort of few years. And I'm DJing as well, just on a casual basis and sometimes at the weekends. And now that the bars are open again, I'm looking for bars to DJ in at the weekend, which is kind of like a side hustle for me, So like, I'm always doing creative things all the time, And what I like to do is to work with people who are more experienced than I am in certain aspects of production, and just be involved in the creative process so that I'm always learning from people that are, really, really good animators, really, really good cinematics directors, really good programmers, really good artists, 3D artists, 2D artists, that kind of thing. And also sound designers and audio directors as well, Some people have said to me, friends of mine who know that I do music, they say, are you going to be making the music for your own games? And I'm like, no, I think I'd rather work with people who make better music than I make, because if I do everything, I'm just going to, it's going to be kind of an average quality across the board. So I prefer to work with other people who are specialized and who have really, really high level of skill in different aspects of production. So yeah, that's me.
You can get definitely with a higher quality in that case. Though, as indie development in the beginning, it's usual for artists and entrepreneurs to try and do everything on their own. Did you do the same for Decimated, also for other things? How did you approach it?
Yeah, I think that this is kind of like a learning experience for me. I've always been kind of very entrepreneurial and grab the bull by the horns and try and do everything, because I feel like I'm driven by so much passion for the things that I'm doing. It's sometimes difficult to find people that kind of equal that level of passion. So I think that if I was to meet people more often that had the same level of passion as me, then we would potentially go into business together, But so far, I usually start things and then find people to help, build that kind of company, build the studio, build the IP or the game that we're working on. But yeah, I think that the first 2 years of working with Fracture Labs, it was mainly me doing everything. I did have some freelancers coming and going that were working on certain aspects of production. Like we worked on a trailer, we worked on a prototype. I did the website myself, all the company setup and financing the company as well. I self-funded the company. And I was really looking for people to join the team to be co-founders. But what I found was a lot of people that were willing to work for the project just really wanted to get paid at the end of the month, and they weren't really willing to kind of dive in and invest money and kind of not get paid for 2 years or whatever until the business takes off. But I was like, well, I'm going to put all the money down and invest in my own business, and then that pays for the salaries of all the people that come and work with us. So I certainly offered for people to join the founders team, but it's about finding the right people who are willing to take that risk, because it is a big risk and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for one person. It's a lot of work for a team, So I think the first 2 years where I was doing all that work, I really kind of worked myself, into a mode of stress by the end of last year, that I had to take a break, and you always think that you're not going to be the one that suffers from burnout, but because you feel like you're invincible because you're so passionate about it. But eventually it catches up with you physically, like your body starts to say, do you know what? I can't handle like these sleepless nights and the level of stress that you deal with when you're having to do all the things and manage. You're essentially spinning plates all the time, You're always making sure that the plates don't fall over. But it's with everything with regards to creative production, with financing and accounts, with all your VAT and tax returns, all that stuff, all the boring stuff, accountancy stuff and legal, plus supervising the team, breaking down the project into tasks and things like that, and trying to be the spearhead for the project. It definitely takes its toll on us, like physically and mentally, after a certain period of time. There's only so long you can do that, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So there's other people that I do meet who are super passionate about what they do, even if it's in video games or other sectors. And I see the fire in their eyes that they have, like they're like, I'm going to do this. I've got this amazingly ambitious idea, and I'm going to invest all my money into it. And I'm going to do this like fundraising strategy, and I'm going to raise loads of money, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm like, I admire your passion, but just make sure that you have people like a CTO to help you and somebody with accounts so that they can help with the account side. Don't do it all yourself, because you're probably only going to last 3 years, and then you're going to collapse on the floor. So yeah. So
I remember. Tiago told us that the mic is not. People can't hear me from the mic. So, you want to try something? Just
a second.
This is the beautiful of the live.
Yeah.
Let me try a thing. Okay. Oh, okay. Can you? Who knows if they can hear as well? But you can hear us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't hear him anymore now.
I can hear you guys.
Okay, perfect.
Where are you reading the chat in the?
Yeah, no, it was Tiago that sent me a message directly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So I was saying that as we are two entrepreneurs now doing Blaze and working on Blaze. Yeah, you're an entrepreneur too. Yeah. Oh, you leveled up. You leveled up.
Okay.
But in the past, I remember I had 2 startups, and really, when you're starting something on your own, it's like your baby. It's like you really believe and put all your energy into it, and also when you're bootstrapping everything, doing it with your own money, it's kind of normal trying to not spend too much money here and there in different people that can help you with that. Though it costs you less in the beginning because you don't put the money out, but eventually in the long term it can cost you more because you didn't do the things in the right way. And if they are professional, they know what they're doing. So I perfectly agree with what you were saying. And it's normal to go in burnout. I mean, I went it that way too, and took my time to get out of it. And now you think you're recovering from that burnout, or you?
Yeah. I mean, it was essentially like the first few months of this year. I was taking a break, and Nick and the guys, they were working on the project, and I was kind of taking a bit of a back seat, just to kind of give myself some me time and relax and not really stress out so much. Take a break from speaking with investors and publishers as well, because I was constantly chasing investors and publishers and pitching all the time and having meetings back to back, attending all of the games exhibitions. And, my schedule was always full, so it's like constantly working from, early in the morning till late at night, and my girlfriend was like, when are you going to stop and come and watch Netflix and have dinner with me? I'm like, so So yeah, this year has been a bit more. I've been taking it easy a bit more, and learning to manage my time better and take breaks. And go out and enjoy the sunshine and have coffee breaks more often, that kind of thing. So yeah.
It was like this Christmas that I made a gift to one of my friends, and in Italian, the title in Italian is Il potere del cazzeggio, is the power of like just wasting a bit of your time and just, I mean, taking your free time sometimes, but really wasting it the way that you feel like I'm wasting my time. Though that time sometimes really helps you just to get out of the mind where you're fully into it and you can just think about anything else you don't enjoy all the rest.
Yeah.
Though you get there, but in the beginning you feel it like it's your baby. It's like, that is really what I want to do. Like, how did it start with Decimated? Like day zero. How was it?
So, well, the thing is that way back in 2013, I started working on my own games. I had my day job, which was like organizing animation and cinematics partnerships for AAA games, which I still do now. Just less. I spend less time doing that. But with the money I was making from my day job, I was self-funding my own indie game development for a project called Hide and Shriek Mansion, which was kind of like a Spy versus Spy clone, but with a kind of point-and-click adventure game style interface like Monkey Island. And I was in development on that game for about 3 years. And it was my first project where I was supervising a small team of developers. We ran into some issues because, there was one company that we asked them if they would be willing to help us develop the game. And instead of helping us, they kind of cloned the idea and went and made their own version of it, which they kind of stole our IP. And another thing happened was that another game developer released a game that was also called Hide and Shriek. Which kind of stepped on our dreams a little bit. It was like, now we've got to rebrand our project, So we also did like a round of pitching to investors and publishers, and we were met with, kind of like, not sure. We're not sure if there's a demand for this kind of game. Let us know when you get closer to launch, then maybe we'll fund you, that kind of thing, So after 3 years of development on that project, I decided to take a break, and I went to South America. Spent some time there with my girlfriend. And then when I came back to Europe, I wanted to set up a new company. And I was already kind of in pre-production on a new single-player sci-fi game, which was heavily inspired by Another World and the sequel to Another World, Flashback. That was like a 2D platformer back in the 90s where you had to solve different puzzles in order to progress through the map. And there was like cinematic cutscenes when you died and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make like a modern version of that, and I prototyped a version of that in Unity with some assets from the marketplace there, and then I started playing around with Unreal Engine because I felt like I wanted the game to be a bit more photorealistic in style, and I also wanted to make a game that was like super high quality to the level of quality that I was working on with the AAA projects that I was doing in my day job, and so I was like, let's just amp up the ambition of this project, let's make it a multiplayer game in Unreal Engine. And then at that time as well, we were also really kind of deeply involved in blockchain and cryptocurrency, so we were thinking maybe we could make a game. This was around 2017 when Bitcoin was at its all-time high, and I was thinking, there's all these other projects that are fundraising their games or platforms for games, like Engine, for example. And yet they don't have any products. They're like relying on other developers to bring products to them. So I thought, well, I got all of this experience working in games. Maybe I could do like a cryptocurrency token sale, use that as the means to fund the project, and then players will be able to redeem those tokens inside the game. Earn tokens, spend them, collect items, NFTs, that kind of thing. What I've learned is I think that we were a bit too early. Although we were kind of late at the tail end of the first crypto bubble, that bubble crashed, and then we were trying to do a token sale when the market was it was back at the lows. And now everybody's talking about NFTs and how it's going to revolutionize the video games industry. But we decided to pivot away from all that after the first year because it was just so hard, and we were spending so much time basically marketing the token rather than marketing the game and doing the game development. So we'd just done like the bare essentials that we did for the project, which was a cinematic trailer and a prototype as a proof of concept. And and then we were trying to fundraise ourselves, and I put in a lot of money of my own as well to kind of get it started. So yeah, that's really how it started. That was our initial strategy, but as time evolved, it kind of evolved, and then we focused more on product development rather than fundraising.
Okay.
So it kind of like our priorities kind of shifted over. Yeah, and then it got to the stage where we actually had like a playable demo. We got to pre-alpha stage of development where we had a multiplayer combat demo. You remember we were playing this last year, yeah?
Yeah.
And that was when we started really pitching to video game investors and publishers and letting them know about the project. So it's been for about a year now that we've been speaking with more sophisticated video game investors and publishers about the project, and things are going well. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we worked together in the past, because people don't know this. We didn't spoil this before, but this is the time. And yeah, we worked at indeed one of the first versions, right, of in the desert, where we were trying to, I was trying to create Houdini tools to model the city, model the roads, and that's where we started working together, because you decided to invest really in something that I think many indie many indie game studios, don't invest initially, because it's kind of a thing that really pays in the long term, which is procedural things and procedural tools, which can sometimes work for depending on what you do, but many times it really pays in the long run. So and that is a great thing, because indeed with the procedural tools that you can create, you're continuing to create, you can really create big things with much less time in the end.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an investment that you did that you do at the moment in the industry.
Yeah, and obviously the goal was to be able to create huge open worlds as quickly as possible and be able to iterate on all that production as easily as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so researching how Ubisoft were doing their level design using Houdini and their own engine, it was so amazing to me to see how such a small team of technical artists would be able to achieve such amazing photorealistic results for Ghost Recon Wildlands and Far Cry. And I kind of thought, okay, so Ubisoft, they're a big company, but they've got a small team working on this type of pipeline, and they've got a good 8 to 10 years head start. But if we invest now in developing those tools for our company, then in 8 to 10 years from now, we'll have laid all the foundations for procedural world building. Now we've got Unreal Engine 5. Like the level of realism is just getting closer and closer to reality. So I just don't want to be left behind. That's why I'm so deeply involved in all aspects of production, is because I want to be involved and not get left behind, and then always regret that I never did it. I think it's better to just dive in to the deep end and just learn and build up all these tools, because it's all worth something. It's all valuable. It's tools that you can use, tools that your developers can use, just tools that can help you create content for your projects. Whether that's animation content or video games.
You can do a lot of things with Procedure.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that you decided to use Houdini at first, and why you started using it, since it was like it pays off on the long run, but at first it's so hard to use it, since you are trying to like create something that can work easily. And so what were you thinking about, like creating something that was like, okay, I can use this in like months from now on, instead of like buying from all around the internet props and models?
Yeah, so we have been buying props and models as well, but we wanted to use Houdini to be able to procedurally generate buildings, and also like have the buildings placed around the map in kind of like randomly generated positions. Also the roads as well. So I kind of felt like if we were designing tools for the level designers to use, so that they could use splines for the roads and the bridges and tunnels and things like that, it would be a lot faster for them to make changes rather than be hand placing all of the props inside Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Now, I know that Unreal has got a lot of tools like spline tools and things like that as well. But it's just the power of Houdini and Unreal Engine combined I felt like it was really worth the time and effort to build those tools, so that then we could test out with sort of small 1 square kilometer maps, develop the tools, iterate a bit further, and then deploy a new map until eventually we've got like this perfect set of tools where we can just easily create sections of landscape with loads and loads of detail down to the granular level, really, really quickly. That's really what I wanted to do. And it wasn't just for Decimated. And I was thinking about, creating tool sets that then we could help other game developers with their world creation tool sets as well. So I was really thinking about, what can we do that's going to have value for other developers and other companies as well. So, I'm really interested in photogrammetry pipelines, motion capture, as well as Houdini and technical art and things like that, So yeah, really, I want to build a team of creative producers across the board, so that we're just, we're creating content that's really useful for our own internal IP, whether that's for mobile or for PC console or VR, but also that we can partner up with other studios and then do co-dev with really, really, like with bigger games, with bigger budgets, for example. It keeps our business afloat because we're working with all these other businesses.
Okay.
And it means that we're learning. We're developing all this technology that then gives our company value. Then maybe in the future we get acquired by one of the giants. That's what I was thinking. So.
Okay. Wait.
We have a visitor.
Yeah, we have Paulo. Paulo is one of the guys from the community of Elder Blaze that is really into Houdini and FX, really more than technical things, but he's learning a lot of stuff. So yeah. That's great. Hi, Paulo. No, I was really. I wanted to ask you, more about the struggles that you went through, and what if, here, a feeling, is it more of a technical struggles or more of a kind of, other kind of struggles, which can be really a variety on that.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, it is really, really hard work. And is it Murphy's Law that says if something wrong, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. If something bad can happen, it will happen. And yeah, I mean, man, this is the thing, like the amount of, you could almost call it abuse, the amount of abuse that you suffer as a startup founder. It's no wonder that people eventually get burnt out unless they start generating revenue, and then they can hire more people to help them with everything that needs to be done. But in our case, some of the biggest challenges that we faced were because we were publicly advertising our fundraising strategy as through a token sale. It made us a beacon for brute force attacks on our website and scammers that were like duplicating our profiles and our Facebook page and our website and things like that, trying to divert traffic from our website to their website, also intercepting transactions and things like this. So this was really, really difficult. There was a few times on our website where we were brute force attacked more than 200,000 times, and we had a sort of like KYC system which was charging us €1 per check, right? So you can imagine if we got hit with 200,000 hits, then the company that's providing us with this KYC, Know Your Customer, identity verification tool, they're like, hey, there's somebody, you've got like 200,000 hits on your website, that means you have to pay us €200,000. And we're like, well, it's hackers, and there's nothing to do with us. So we had to put out all those fires, So what else?
This was due to blockchain and the fact that you were hosting your own token, which is DIO, right? That was the name.
Yeah, DIO. Yeah. So that was one of the issues. That was one of the reasons that we decided to pivot away from the whole blockchain and crypto space as well, was because we felt like there was just too much nefarious activity going on, and it was giving us a bad rep, and it was also just adding a lot of technical and legal challenges to our. It was already difficult with doing the game itself, but then there's all these other technical and legal challenges that we had to deal with, plus having to fight off scammers and hackers and bots all the time. So that was a real challenge. I think that fundraising is really difficult, especially in the video games industry, because there's just so many companies out there that are developing games, And investors and publishers really have easy pickings when it comes to where they want to put their money, and investing in a startup which is still in kind of prototype or pre-alpha stage is nigh impossible to raise money for, unless, of course, your team are all veteran game developers who have all previously worked at Ubisoft or Riot Games, and they've decided to, leave that company to set up their own company. And in fact, I believe that they don't even leave the company until they've secured the investment, whereas in our case, and in many developers' cases, they're like, they try and build something to show to the investors and publishers, and then there's just, you get like a simple yes or no answer. They'll evaluate it and they'll be like, yeah, it's okay, but it's too early for us, whereas investors will sometimes invest even earlier when there's no product whatsoever, because they're investing in the team rather than the product itself,
So
fundraising is really, really difficult. And like I say, because there's so much competition out there, a lot of games will receive, big checks from investors after the game is launched and it's already got, provable metrics of how many people are playing the game on a daily or monthly basis. You can also say how much revenue you've been making. And so if you're breaking even with your monthly expenses, let's say you've got like a operating expenditure of 25,000 euros per month for yourself and all of your team, but you're making 25,000 euros in sales in terms of like game sales and in-app purchases. It's at that point that investors will probably inject like millions into your business to help you with aggressive marketing to scale up those numbers so that you get a lot more users. And then it's a no-brainer, everybody's making money. But so I understand from the investor's perspective why they're hesitant to invest in early stage companies, because they really do have the pick of the bunch. They're like, well, we could invest in a mobile game company which has a smaller development budget, but it has a much higher user acquisition goal. You could get 10 million downloads of a mobile game that's free to play, and then have ad revenue plus in-app purchases. Whereas a PC or console title might cost a minimum of like half a million or $1 million to develop, but there's no guarantee you're going to get any sales. Unless you could either have a hit or you have a flop. So it's always that risk. So
there's a lot of risk for them investing in something that, as you said, is not generating revenue or has no. One of the things is to have the metrics that they know that will lead eventually to a great revenue and a great user base. But that is hard to make. I mean, it's hard to spot the right metrics, because there's also the vanity metrics, like the ones that is like more, I'm so great, but they are not really useful. Like we sometimes do some vanity metrics on, we just check on the website. Oh, we have people going through the website. We're at the beginning, but there are people going through that. Yeah, but it's not really useful to anything as of now. We have to study more and understand more things. But having the right metrics, is one of the hardest challenges that you have to face.
Yeah. You asked if there was also like technical challenges as well. And I think that the thing when you have a new company and you're struggling financially and you're trying to bootstrap as much as possible, there's a lot of churn. It's what they call, where people come and go. People will join the company and then they'll stay for a few months and then they'll leave because they'll have a better job or a different opportunity, or they want more security, for example. So that is a bit of a risk. And I think this is another reason why a lot of investors want to invest in companies that have all of the founding members of the team are all equal shareholders in the company, right? So they want to see your CEO, your CTO, your exec producer, your marketing manager, and maybe your community manager or your user acquisition guy, for example, all 20% shareholders of the company. So they're all in it. We can't leave. You're locked in. Maybe even putting money down as well. If everyone's an equal shareholder and they all put in, let's say 10,000, 20,000, 25,000, make it a nice round number. Then you've got budget to spend. So you and the founders probably won't be taking a salary for the first few years, but at least you've got that budget there to hire developers that then you can supervise and do some of the production work, and then you use your expertise to supervise them and deliver a really decent project. So yeah, I think that this is what's really important, and what I'm going to do with because I've learned a lot with Fracture Labs and Decimated, and it's still going. But if I was to start another company, I would do it differently, and I would, yeah. I've learned a lot over the last few years about what there's really an appetite for from the investors and publishers, and also what checkboxes they have that they're looking for in a company that makes them more agreeable to wanting to invest, and what puts them off, and definitely having your core team as founding members who are equal shareholders in the company. They're all invested financially and mentally in the project. Is what the investors want to see, because they don't want. A lot of the time, I've spoken to some of the giant investors and publishers in the game space, and they say, okay, so you've got this person as this particular role in your company, but what if they leave the company and they're offered a job at another big games company and they're offered twice the salary? Mm-hmm. How can you prevent that from happening? And the answer is you can't, because anybody, if they're earning a certain amount and then they get offered an amazing salary at a bigger company where they have better career options, they're most likely to take it. They would take the job. So that's what I would do differently next time. Is make sure that I start the company with the right people, and not try and do it all myself and then try and find the people afterwards. It's better to do a lot of planning first. And the thing is, some people say time spent planning could be time spent doing, but I think that you do need to plan. But you learn from your previous experiences. That's the thing. All the experiences that you have with all of the failed startups that you've run in the past, and all of the times that you've taken risks and it didn't work out. Maybe you learned something from it, of course. So these are all the years that you spend planning, is all the times that you're doing, and then eventually you get it right, and then you're like, okay, so all the mistakes that I made in the past, I'm not going to make this time. And this time I'm going to do all these things that I didn't do in the past, and I've learned from those experiences, and this time it's going to work, and eventually you'll do it. You just got to keep on trying.
That's where experience comes in and kicks in the fact that planning requires less and less time eventually, because planning is important. Like, you can't skip that part. It's not, you can just go and do, because sometimes also as you are the CEO, the visionary of everything, a lot of the time really is about thinking where you want to go and have the skills to communicate to the people that you want to work with. Because as you said, finding the right people is one of the hardest thing, and is one of the main reasons that startup fails, because you don't have a team that is really into it, that is really ready to sacrifice whatever is needed to go through all the good and bad moments you have to go through.
There are also good moments.
There are also good moments.
Yeah.
Not so many, but,
okay.
But sometimes it happens. They say it happens.
But it's the same. Like years ago when I was doing music production, me and my friends, we all had day jobs. We were working in bars and restaurants and various different types of jobs. Call centers, for example, was a big one in Scotland. Lots of people had a day job where they were on the phones doing customer support for a call center, like mobile phone, telephone company or something like that, But we were all passionate about the music. We lived for music. We didn't get any money from it. We did it because we loved it. Mm-hmm. We were up all night making music. We would be spending our money on music equipment, samplers and effects units and decks for DJing and all that kind of stuff. We would network with other people that were doing music production. We would network with people that were running record labels. We would network with people that were in other countries that were also as passionate as we were about the music. It's all about networking and about being super dedicated and passionate about it. And we worked our asses off for years without any monetary gain. In fact, we were losing money because we were organizing events, doing all the flyers and the posters, paying for magazine articles and things like that. And working tirelessly to be successful with our music. And eventually, you get to a certain level of success where people recognize the work that you've done, and they like the music that you've produced, and they book you to come and DJ or play in their country, that kind of thing. And you make progress through all of that hard work. So I think that you can definitely build something on passion. It just takes a long time. I don't think that even if you have the best idea in the world, if you were to receive like all the money in the world to make your dream project, you could still fail because you might get lazy. You might get complacent because you have the money there, and you're like, well, it's okay. We don't have to worry because we've got the money, we've got the budget. But there's a lot to be said for people that work and who are passionate about what they do and just stick at it and don't give up, and learn and always keep learning, So yeah.
When you're passionate, you have the fire inside. Though passion probably is sometimes not enough because, as you said, it's only you can have the best idea in the world. You can have all the money, but really the execution changes everything, and the execution is made by the people that you work with. So it's really probably creating a game company, as many other companies, about knowing how to deal with other people rather than obviously you have to know. Some people start that they have the technical skills. Some people start they have an idea. Some people start that they know just the right people and they know how to make things.
Yeah.
But in the end, also it's a lot about communicating. It's a lot about self work. It's about getting a better person and knowing how to deal with the other people, because many times it happened to you to have some clashes. Yeah, I mean with the people that you work with. That is normal. Did it happen to you?
Yeah, I think that everybody has experienced time when they've been working at a company or in their own startup where there's been differences of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, throughout my career, I've worked at various different companies, and also in my own company too. There has been challenges with communication being an issue, and differences of opinion, and arguments and things like that. And I think that it's part and parcel of what happens in these kind of like high stress environments. But I do think that one of the most important things is communication and transparency, being honest with each other and trying to avoid toxicity and making sure that the team are happy. Because if people are not happy, then they're not going to do decent work, and they're not going to be proud of what they're doing, and it's going to really stifle production and creativity. And what I want to do is to give people the freedom to be able to work on their creative projects, but with this kind of goal in mind. Like, this is the vision that we have, what we want to create. But we want you to have the full freedom to develop your skills and develop content that works towards that goal. As a team together. So. Yeah. But yeah, there are definitely times where you're pulling your hair out because you're not getting along with your teammates, and I'm sure that the same can be said for people have said that about me. Like, maybe I'm not the best person to work with sometimes if I'm under a lot of pressure as well. So. These are the reasons why you need to have balance. You need to have that work-life balance so that you're not overworked and then taking it out on your colleagues, because you're all working hard on this, for the same shared goal. So yeah.
We have a question from Raising Void. You want to read it?
No, because I'm not in the message.
You're not in the message.
No.
Oh yeah, that's true. But it's also Jaco. Hey guys, hello, my Peter and Stephen. This is awesome. Thank you very much. We have a question. Are you ready, Steve? This is a question.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about the current state of the AAA industry? Some people say that AAA studios lost the passion side of things and started to be more business oriented. What do you think?
I mean, AAA has always been business. Yeah, AAA has always been business oriented. I mean, of course, I think that a lot of AAA games are, they look amazing, but they're technically and creatively masterpieces, but the gameplay is often quite repetitive, and unless you really love the IP, you're probably going to play the game for between 5 and 10 hours and then be like, okay, I know what the game is all about now, and I'm not going to play it for 100 hours to just to see cutscenes, for example. I think that the AAA market is. It is all about money. It's about the production budgets are really high to make the games look as amazing as possible and be as polished as possible. And I think that there's a lot more, innovation in the indie game market, for sure. It's indie games where the new ideas come from. And when an indie game is successful, everybody else copies that idea. Like when the survival genre appeared, it was essentially mods, right? They were modding Arma and making survival games out of Arma. with zombies running around, and you start off with nothing and that kind of thing. And then lots of other companies start jumping on the survival bandwagon until eventually AAA game companies are like, oh my god, look at how much hype there is around all these indie games and mods of other games. Like now we're going to make like the highest production quality survival games that you could see in the industry. Does that mean that they're successful? I mean, they certainly make a lot of revenue because they have such huge budgets for marketing. They want to get their money back, and so once they've developed the product and they've spent a year or two with a huge team of like 100, 200, 300 people, they will definitely spend in order to recoup those expenses. But I mean, I'm a fan of both the AAA sector and the indie sector. Like I'm avidly playing AAA games and indie games as well. And I see us as being kind of like in the middle, like because we are still indie and we don't have a AAA budget, and we can't compete with those big giants. So we're kind of like in the middle where we want to have the same level of fidelity in the quality of our games, but with a kind of more modest budget, and with a bit more flexibility in terms of creativity. Because I do agree that I think that a lot of AAA game studios, developers and publishers, it's almost like they have templates, like they've already developed the games that have worked, and they've been doing it for, decades already. Now they've got like the perfect formulas. And so they're like, okay, let's reskin this formula, and we're going to release, the sequel to this game, and we're going to make it in this setting instead, version 2, version 3, version 4. But it's essentially the same game, and, unless you're a real just fan of yeah, exactly. Like they change the graphics, maybe they change the UI, they'll cut features, they'll add in new features, because they're still testing. They're always still testing the market. They'll release a sequel for a game and it might not do so well, so they'll be like, okay, well, we made a mistake there. But again, the AAA market will, they'll develop their games and iterate on their designs until eventually they hit like the perfect version of their game for a particular IP. And then they end up having like the perfect game for that type of franchise. So I respect the big companies, and you've got to remember that companies like Ubisoft and Activision and all these other big companies, they started off small as well back in the 80s and the 90s. And it's just through positioning and luck and timing that they ended up becoming like the billion-dollar companies that they are now, where they're monopolizing the industry. But I mean, this is another thing, like I said before, that's why I want to be involved and not get left behind, because if it takes one company 20 years to go from a small team of developers into like a 500 to 1,000 studio dev team, you've got to get started. You've got to start, and you've got to do it. And then eventually, 25 years down the line, you'll be an old person, and you'll be like, well, I did it. I built all this. It's like
I've been the creator of all of this, and that's a huge journey. Yeah. What do you think about all of this?
Well, I think that speaking about the same IP that just get like reskin over and over again. Like I'm a passionate World of Warcraft player. I have played like since vanilla, mostly every day, until
every night,
every day,
and every day.
Until like last year. And at a certain point, you can clearly see like the repetition of the content is just to make you purchase the new expansion or keep like grinding stuff. But it's like always the same. But at a certain point, we are so connected with the IP. It is hard to detach yourself. Like I bought the last expansion from World of Warcraft, and I think I played a month or so.
Yeah.
I pre-ordered it, so it was like, okay, even if I know that I'm not going to play it, I still will spend money on it because it's like part of my life. It's like part of my childhood, and so I'm continuously giving them money. It's hard to say that they are looking only for the content, but most of the time you hear like big companies that are creating new content just to like make you spend the less more money on them.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you also hear like it was Activision Blizzard last year that they also decided to leave at home part of their game dev. So it was quite like a struggle because you are giving them money even if you are not playing, and they start to leave people aside. So I'm not sure that they are not passionate anymore, because this is something that I will not say just because I'm thinking about Blizzard. But most of the time they are trying to stay on the wave until they can,
Yeah.
just creating and rescuing.
Yeah, if it works, you
If it
continue.
works,
I mean,
at a certain point the bubble will explode. But I really hope that most of the time, like if you have an IP, I'm still thinking about Blizzard, you will start creating several universe, like they have World of Warcraft, they have Overwatch, Diablo, and so it's like if you are playing one game, you have also to play the other one, just to be sure that the story is always the same. Or then you can buy the skin in Overwatch that comes from World of Warcraft or Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, it's not about passion; it's about literally being so deep inside a universe that you will still purchase everything that they make, even if at a certain point it's always the same. Also, I think that this is linked more to the fact that it's like a huge company, and so starting with a complete new universe or complete new IP is so hard for them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But obviously, even though these big companies are corporate in nature, they are fueled by the passion of the people, the sum of its parts, which are the developers themselves, And people who are developers, whether they're artists or programmers or, sound designers, whatever, they're passionate about their aspect of production. They contribute to that creative process. So I think there is a lot of passion amongst the developers. But yes, I mean, any company when it gets to that scale, and you're dealing with budgets of that size, of course, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the bottom line, and we give the gamers and the consumers what they want, and we give them all the content to play, and we continually update the game and fix the issues and fix the bugs, because yes, we want to monopolize. We want to grow the business. We want to make lots of money and then keep on expanding. And the CEOs get their bonus, So, yeah, I totally get it, And I think that a lot of people, they end up working with a AAA game studio and getting career experience, and then they would leave that company and then set up their own indie game studio or their own offshoot team, because as what's the word, as beneficial it is to be working in a AAA game studio to gain that experience and have like a nice salary, and networking with other game developers, I can imagine you could probably feel like you're kind of working in a cubicle where you're given tasks to do and there isn't really that much room for creativity, because there's kind of like a top down system. It's like, look, we're basically making version 2 of this previous game that was already successful. So we already know how the project is all going to be structured in our project management software. And then we assign all those tasks to all the members of each team in animation and programming and art and things like that, right? So you've just got tasks to work through. If there might be situations where you can say you can bring ideas to the table, but it has to be approved by the creative directors and the exec producers, and then they would say yes or no. If it's your own company and your own project, you have full creative freedom over everything that you do, and you can decide. I mean, you don't want to have feature creep where you're constantly saying, "Oh, let's add this, let's add in this idea, let's add in this. Oh, I just saw this video, we should do that too." You can take inspiration from things, but there is a risk that you can have feature creep when it's your own project and you're in charge of everything, because you want to do everything. You want to have the most amazing project.
Yeah, it's easy to put things in.
Yeah,
it's hard to take things out of it, because like everything seems to be too important to be taken away, and then you get.
So you need to discipline yourself.
Yeah.
So you got to be disciplined. I think that
not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I think that working at those big companies is where you can learn that discipline and learn how things are structured, how teams are organized at big companies, and then learn from that and then do it yourself. but with that extra level of freedom where you can pivot if you want to and take things in a different direction. So you might have your original game design document written in the first year and you've prototyped it, but then by year 1 and year 2, you've kind of deviated from that original concept because it's evolved and it's improved and it's actually better than you planned. You're like, you have a vision, but then when you actually put it into practice, with other people involved in the creative process, you end up with a product that could hopefully be better than the one that you even started out with. Whereas if you're working with a big company, as we've said before, you're basically doing tasks to create a product that's already predefined. We know this works, this formula works, so we're going to do it again, but we're going to cut these features that people didn't really use or like, and we're going to add in these features because they worked in another game that we worked on as well. So,
and I'd say that happens also not when they are repeating like a formula that works, but also in AAA game. Personally, I don't have experience inside working in it, but we had the chance to talk with a lot of people inside. And also when you're working on a new IP, which is kind of different from the rest, new formula, still you are a little cog inside a big machine. So you have to make it work, and eventually you don't have the chance to put in your creativity. So it really depends, to answer the question that also showed in the chat. Like, is it worth the struggle to work? How is the experience in a AAA game? In the design field, I think that really depends. Well, it really depends on what you want. Like, if you want to be more a creative person and want to express this creativity, you probably want to aim for an indie studio or a smaller studio, because in there also, when I worked with Steve, I mean, it was I had the chance to put my ideas on the table and we had the chance to discuss about it. It was not just like someone else taking the decision for you. And if you have good ideas, they will listen for you. When you're in a AAA game, as Steve said, really things are that way and you have to stick to that. So you're more like
service provider.
Yeah, service provider. I was not call that. So yeah.
Yeah, you have more of a kind of hierarchical structure.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're an animator with an animation lead who then, he reports to his manager, his manager, for example, up the scale, But at the top of the pyramid is the shareholders and those that have put the money into to develop the product,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And then, You got one.
No, I was thinking about the fact that we say about being a service provider, and as Steve said before, you have the chance of learning how to be more focused in a AAA game, in a AAA company. But at a certain point, you have to decide if you want to climb to the top, like being a super or a lead. And so at that level, you can start speaking about your idea, even if I'm not that sure. But if you want to step back a little bit before, like a senior or something like this, as Steve said before, you are going to open probably your own studio, like that happened with Dream Heaven or Frost Giant. They are seniors, supervisor, leads from, I think it was from Blizzard or Activision.
Yeah.
And so they decided to open their own studio, just because at a certain point you have to decide if you want to be like an artist and so be free to create, or if you want that huge amount of money they can share with you.
Which is not necessarily, I mean, that is something that is going to happen, because it's not when you start from an artist, because there are a lot of people that, okay, I'm an artist, I can do this, I can use Unreal, I know how to script a bit, so I can try to do my own game. There are a lot of things on the internet that tell you how to make these things, but remember that it's not just about art, it's not just about technical thing, it's a lot about people. It's really a lot about knowing how to create relationship, how to go and fundraise, be prone even at a certain point and stopping doing the technical stuff unless you find someone else is going to be the CEO of the company. But eventually you have to be open to share part of the big part of the company and the decisions with someone else that is someone that you need to trust, and that requires you relationship skills.
Yeah, and also being able to handle criticism and feedback. When you're working with a big company, if you're working all on your own projects, and you think that you're the best, and you get an ego because you're like, I'm an amazing artist, but why am I not getting a job in the industry? You kind of need to work with a big team that have a lot more experience for you to be able to develop your skills, your interpersonal skills, as well as your technical skills as well. You're going to learn things from other people, of course, who have more experience than you, from working in various aspects of production. So yeah, it's like always learning all the time, and yeah, using that the companies to get the experience that you need to be able to make yourself a better artist, to then do your own things more efficiently and effectively in the future. So yeah.
I'm curious to know, what if, like, you said something before, but I would like to know more about this. If you would start a new game company, indie company, and would you still aim for something like a triple A, going like you were aiming for Decimated, or are you what would you do? Like, would you aim at something different, smaller, and then go higher, or just go full of it?
I think there's a lot of value in rapid prototyping, and then testing out lots of ideas that don't take a lot of time or money to develop, so that you can test lots of different ideas, and doing things like game jams and things like that. It's a really good way to do that. Set yourself a deadline, like 1 month. Like let's prototype this concept in 1 month. Let's try it lots of different ways, and which one works the best, then we can run with that. I definitely wouldn't do such an ambitious project in terms of visual fidelity and scope of budget and that kind of thing again, until I have more, until I have like that founding team that are all, AAA experienced. I mean, I have the AAA experience, but I also need team members that have that level of experience, and more so than I do, for the technical side of things, for the art side of things, the animation side of things. So I think that at the moment I'm thinking about doing a kind of smaller project that would be more suitable for mobile and VR. So I've got like the VR headset, and I've since I've got into VR, I'm absolutely amazed at just how immersive it is. And although the VR is such a niche sector, it's still got really, really low kind of daily active users, and it's a growing sector. I think that the last year's report was like it's like a $40 million sector. So it's not as big as like the PC console market or the mobile market. But yeah, I was thinking about doing something that was a bit smaller that could be cross-platform, but something that's more of a kind of casual game, different art style as well, so that it's got more appeal for like a younger generation, and it's less hardcore. Decimated has been aiming to be kind of hardcore cyberpunk, kind of violent future, very dystopian, very serious, very, very moody, very kind of and I know that there's a huge demand for that kind of game in the market, but the cost for us to develop Decimated is going to be quite high. Whereas I could also develop other games in parallel, which cost less to make, and we can test the market, and we can start putting out some games a lot faster, generating revenue for other games. And then, we're more likely to raise capital for the business rather than just for the IP, the individual games that we're making. We're raising money for the business and all the value that we have from all the products that we're working on. I would definitely stick with Unreal Engine. I mean, I love Unity, but I've not used it for a long time, and I still think that Unreal Engine is so versatile, and the fact that it's free as well is just amazing.
Yeah.
And every month we've got like free assets.
They offer different capabilities for the VR headset, right? One is standalone, and the other one, I don't know if anything changes with the new technology, what's going to happen with Unreal Engine 5, but I know that with Unity, you said you're more expert into this.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that with Unreal 5 is like a little bit too demanding as a hardware, and I'm not sure that it can be like it can work on kind of standalone. Or
but bear in mind that
well,
but bear in mind, I mean the VR headsets obviously do work standalone, but because now you can use AirLink or just connect your headset up to your PC, you're playing games on your PC and you're just streaming them through your VR headset, using Steam VR. So that way you can play games, super high quality, running at 120 frames per second, and you're just kind of streaming a video through your VR headset, but your graphics card is doing all the work. So, and then I think that as right now we've got like super amazing Wi-Fi 6 routers, so you can do it wirelessly as well. You're essentially streaming HD video, like 8K video or 4K video, streaming that over Wi-Fi. A normal router can't handle that level of data transmission. And in fact, anytime I try and connect my VR headset to the computer using Airlink, I get really, really shaky camera. Like it kind of glitches out and then disconnects. So I'm going to upgrade my router so then I can walk around freely and use that. But yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, the VR headsets themselves, they certainly can't fit in a graphics card at this stage that's powerful enough to be able to handle games that, ultra quality to the level that we're used to for the kind of games that are on the market right now. But I think that there's a lot of potential with VR and also AR as well. I mean, VR and AR. I think we've discussed this before, Piero. About the convergence of AR and VR and how they're going to meet in the middle at some point. And I do think that there is I've said for years that I think that one of the biggest problems with VR, one of the biggest problems that we all agree on is that you can get motion sickness when you're using them. Because you're moving inside the virtual world, but you're sitting down or you're standing still, and so people get dizzy. If they're on a roller coaster, or even if they're playing first-person shooters and they're rotating around all the time.
Yeah, you can't stay too much into it. Yeah, you get.
Yeah. Even after 20 minutes or something like that, people start to feel nauseous. And this is another thing as well. You never think it's going to happen to you. You're like, no, I can handle it.
Yeah.
And then you'll go on a roller coaster, and you're like, you're in control of the speed of the roller coaster, and you're like, you're in control, so you kind of feel like when you're going fast and slow, and then you take it off, and then you start feeling a bit dizzy, and you're like, oh, wow.
Wait a second.
Yeah. But I think that one of the other problems with VR, much the same with what I contribute the failure of things like Google Glass with, is that people don't like wearing peripherals on their body. Having such a big headset like this, it's heavy. It's a lot lighter than the previous one apparently, but it's still heavy. You can't sit with this on your head for hours. Yeah. You end up with marks here, and then you've got the weight here. But I mean, it's amazing when you're looking through the headset. It's absolutely amazing and super immersive. But yeah, I think that's what hinders the VR sector, and I think that as we move more into technology that's smaller and less noticeable, where maybe you're just wearing some light glasses, for example. Maybe in the future when we have digital contact lenses with an LED display. I mean, this would probably happen a lot faster than we think. I've got a Facebook group. This is called Futurism, Science, and Technology. For years, I've been posting up all the kind of latest technology and seeing how it evolves. And I think that in the future, AR and VR could potentially just be through, a display, lenses. A contact lens display, that kind of thing. Until eventually it's like Cyberpunk world, where we just get our eyes replaced with bionic eyes, and then it's all 100% immersive.
Yeah, I mean that way. Or if we have what was it, Neuralink, directly in our brain with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And then you get into Ghost in the Shell kind of territory where everybody's got a chip in their brain, but then you've got these hackers that are able to hack people and then get them to assassinate targets and things like that.
Yeah.
This super intelligent AI that's using people as kind of pawns in its kind of agenda to take over the world.
Yeah, moving everything and taking over the world. It's always about taking over the world. Yeah. We don't know why, but everyone wants this world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Totally.
So do you plan to do something in the future about VR and AR in particular with the game that you were telling before, more something of indie, smaller, more of a also changing the design inside it to be more appealing to the people that's gonna go through it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really interested in everything from LiDAR technology, where you're able to use your phone to scan the real world and then make it into 3D, and then use augmented reality to throw objects around and have little dragons kind of on your table and things like that. This is really amazing. And again, I follow all this kind of stuff on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I'm always reposting things. I would love to be working on all of the things that I'm interested in, but I do really want to make a really killer kind of game that people would love to play as well. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because we're still in pre-production.
We're not going to spoil
yeah.
Though understanding the fact that as entrepreneurs, at the same time we have a lot of ideas, like a lot of things that you can really do, you can really put all your time into, but it's really that many of them just cut the others. Like if you do one, you can't do the other. So at a certain point, it's like,
it's true.
Where do I put
choose.
all my energy? I can't put in everything, because if I try to, I will start many things, but I will never get to an end on any of them. And you have to, like, not blindly, but close your eye, but just pick one and stick with it for a while and understand if that can really work. Not just trying and see, I put just a little bit of energy. If I get burned, I am going to stop. You really have to go through a bit of time into it. But you must be convinced that that is something that you really want to spend your time into, because, I mean, there are a lot of ideas out there, but the execution is the fact in the end. So
I think that one of the most important decisions to make in your career is to be somewhere where you can network with other people that are entrepreneurial. Hubs, cities like Barcelona or Berlin or London, for example, where you can go to events in the evening and then meet up with founders. You can attend conferences where people are talking about their businesses. You're networking. Maybe you practice pitching your concept as well. You're networking with, you keep things secret as well, so you don't just pitch all your ideas away. But you go to these events and you talk with people that are equal, have this similar mindset, and that's how you build the team. You build your team through extending your network in person or online on LinkedIn, for example. Through ArtStation as well is a really, really good one, and all these different platforms for bridging entrepreneurs and developers and artists together. So that will also shape what decisions you make to build your own startup as well. Is the people that are around you, the experience that you acquire throughout your career, and the people that you're networking with. That's why when it came to working on Decimated, I was like, I know all the people that can help me build this.
Yeah.
So if I can just raise some money to be able to hire some of these people, then we should be able to build it. But as I mentioned before, a better strategy is to team up with people that have the equal level of passion to build it together from the start, rather than one person taking the lead and then trying to get people to join. It's better to network and find the right people and then build it together, And you have to have the technical expert has to be a founding member of the team. A creative guy has to be a founding member of the team. Somebody who's really, really good with finances and budgets and timelines has to be on the team. So you just got to find those people, and they could all be juniors who share the same level of passion, and you're learning together. Your first company might not be the successful one, but you never know. If you've got an amazing idea, it could be that you do a round of networking. Maybe you get some press, for example, for your awesome idea. And the investors will be knocking on your door rather than the other way around, where you're constantly knocking on their door, asking them if they're ready to invest yet. So there's lots of different scenarios where it could work out.
Yeah. How, like, when you created Decimated, a lot of the people that worked with you were not there where you were located. Like you're in Malta now, but before you were in where were you in Berlin? What is it? I don't remember.
Over the last few years, I've lived in Italy, in Bologna. Right. I've lived in Berlin, Malaga, Spain, Krakow, Poland, Tenerife, Glasgow, where I studied,
and
Santiago de Chile, and Malta as well. So I did travel around quite a lot over the last few years. But yeah, I set the company up in Malta because when I came back to Europe after South America, I wanted to set up the company in a country where they spoke English. Although I speak Spanish and Italian, I just kind of felt like, it makes more sense for me to set up a business and do all my administration work in English, right? Also, Malta has very low taxes for foreign companies, which is a big plus, and it's decent weather, So it ticks a lot of checkboxes for me, Malta. And I've been here for 3 years now, and I like it. But it definitely comes with its challenges as well, being in Malta, is that there is very, very few developers here. There are no investors here that are interested in investing in games or any kind of creative stuff. So it's made me want to to take my own advice. I was saying before, and go to one of the bigger cities, like Berlin is a really good one, or Barcelona, where there's like more people there to network with and build startups with, and do kind of creative back and forth with. Lisbon as well is another good one. I would recommend going to Lisbon. And I'm thinking about going there for a visit just to check it out actually in the next few months.
You probably find more people soon now that the pandemic is getting better. You probably
absolutely
know more and more people that could be interested in working together. But how is it to work with people fully remote since the beginning of Decimated? Because for example, we see that we can work really well because we are one next to each other, and the communication is straightforward. We just turn our head. Now it's here, but usually we are flipped. Usually, like I see that. So how is it to work with people that are not located there where you are, but you have to connect them remotely?
I think that it's doable. It's certainly not as instantaneous when you're communicating face to face and you're right there and you can talk to each other. But we've been using Slack and Discord as well for all of our team communications, and we had people separated into different departments, so there wasn't just like clutter in our general chat. We would have like an animation department, an art department, programming department, like a back end, like a server department, that kind of thing. So we could filter all the different conversations into different departments. But yeah, what I wanted to do eventually after the pandemic had lifted would be to get everybody in one office, but to have flexibility, to give people the freedom to, it's not you have to come in and work from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or whatever, but to give people the freedom to work from home if they want to, as long as they're, doing their work and they're involved and that they're, still showing passion and delivering the content that they're supposed to do. So I think that the pandemic has certainly opened a lot of companies' eyes to the possibility of working remotely, and I think this is good. I've been working remotely for 9 years or something like that, and it hasn't really negatively affected my career or the work that I do. But I think that when you're working in a team, it definitely probably pays to have everybody sitting in the same room so that you can be more efficient and get things done. And you can just, the thing is, a lot of game companies will still use instant message even if they're inside an office. I think that there's a lot of developers who are kind of introvert. Like they just focus on their work. They just focus on the computer screen and they like to do that. And maybe they're quite shy. But still, I think that there's a lot of value in working together in an office and a team. For bouncing ideas off each other and diffusing conflicts and that kind of thing as well. It's better if you're actually in person and going out for events the weekend, so that then you can de-stress together and it's not all about work. I think that when everything's online, there is the risk that you're kind of like I don't want to say dehumanizing, but you're kind of depersonalizing your team because they're just like words on a screen all the time,
Okay, yeah.
And
indeed, there is a question like, have you met your employees before working remotely with them?
We have calls, of course. We have video calls. We run tests. But yeah, for sure, there's people that I've interviewed, and their level of English has been a concern for me because communication is such an important factor. If there are miscommunications because people don't speak the lingua franca in the company really well, it's going to just slow things down, and people are going to make mistakes and because they misunderstood things or misinterpreted things. So yeah, like I always have video calls with people and get to know them on a personal level. And try and have video calls as much as possible when we are working remotely, So
did you also have the chance to meet them in person, or you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everybody. We've had freelancers come and go over the last few years. People that I never meet until maybe we would go to like a video game conference together. Sometimes I bought tickets for some of the devs who were in other countries, so then we would meet in person together at Gamescom, for example, or other games conferences. many, like there's many people that I've worked with in the past who I have met in person. In fact, I've met them at places like Gamescom. We would initially connect on LinkedIn or maybe on ArtStation. I would like their portfolio. I would write them an introductory message. Hey, nice work. Let's keep in contact. There's room for us to maybe do provide services to them if they work for another game studio. Ask them questions, kind of build rapport through asking questions, because you learn what people are good at. If they're good at like doing art stuff or animation stuff, or if they're good with multiplayer network replication, they're the kind of people that you can just sort of casually ask, how would you solve this problem? And then you kind of get to know people online. And there's a lot of times that I've gone to video game conferences where I've met people for the first time in person, but because we've been connected on LinkedIn for so long and had that back and forth where we've asked those questions, even if we've never had a video call, you feel like you know the person really, really well. It's like, hey, it's amazing. It's great to see you for the first time, but like we know each other already. Like this is amazing. I think this is what I really love about the games industry as well. The video games industry is that there's a lot of love and a lot of camaraderie in the games industry. People working with different companies, and you get to know each other because it's not a huge industry.
It's a small industry.
It's like,
everybody knows each other.
It's quite a small industry, and everybody kind of knows each other. And then you go to these conferences and you brush shoulders with everybody and you recognize them from their profile pictures on LinkedIn, and you're like, oh, hey, Stephen, everyone recognizes you. You always get like the finger guns as you're walking past to your next meeting, that kind of thing. So it's like, it's cool. I like it. It's really good fun, I miss the conferences for that, because it's like, you feel like everybody gets to feel like a mini celebrity for a few days,
It's a lot nicer when you get in person, meeting with people. These conferences too, where it's really informal, where you really get to know people quite easily.
Yeah.
We have
I think that.
Go.
I don't want to finish on a negative note, but I was going to say that one of the biggest problems about everything being remote and communicating with people always through email or instant message on LinkedIn is that sometimes people can be quite rude, because you take away that human level, where maybe they're being bombarded with messages from people all the time, and then eventually they get fed up, and then they just tell you they might swear at you or be rude to you or whatever, and sometimes it's like you take it personally, but you don't know what's going on in that person's life, so it's like that is a bit of an issue with, and I think that we all know this now from social media as well, is that social media and always just speaking with people online is kind of wearing away the social connection that we have with people, where people are starting to leave Facebook and disconnect, shut down their social media accounts, so
there is indeed a good question about this, because from I1553137, present yourself so that we know more about you. The question is, if you have an employee underperforming, how do you understand if someone is being lazy versus someone with mental health issues remotely? I would tell, go with yours. I would tell eventually I will do my way.
I'm curious about mental health issues. Well, it's quite drastic.
Yeah, it can. Maybe one is stressed out or in that sense. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah.
How would you say? How would you do that?
What was the first one? Because we talked about the mental health.
Yeah. How do you understand if someone is if an employee is underperforming? How do you understand if he's being lazy or is it's mental health issues?
I think that you'd be able to tell by their level of engagement and how they're kind of responding to things. Either through Slack or in meetings and that kind of thing. If you feel like people are being disengaged or if they feel like they're fed up, then it could be. Yeah, I think that also through experiencing it yourself and understanding the kind of the signs of stress and and maybe depression and things like that. It's like you can see it in other people and you can talk to them and just kind of find out if they're okay and if they need to take a break and if they just. But I think that communication is the most important thing. You shouldn't just leave people to it and then expect them to always, provide amazing results, because again, you're going to make people burn out and then they're going to end up with, health issues or mental health issues, that kind of thing, so you want to avoid that. So it's all about communication. But, there have been situations in the past where I've worked with artists who were really good. Their art was really, really good, but they weren't really following instructions. They would create like amazing content, and we would always be constantly saying, "Yeah, it's really, really good," but remember, you have to work in Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is what we're using. We're not using this other software. You can use that other software, sure, to create the assets, but you need to deliver them in Unreal Engine. That's what we're using for the game. And they were just shied away from it. They just didn't want to do it. And there was some times where we had to be like, we're going to have to let you go because we keep on asking you for months to migrate over to Unreal Engine, and even just to start doing level design inside the engine rather than in level design in Maya, for example, which is pointless because you can't run around a Maya level. Even if you import all the assets, you have all sorts of issues with the positioning, the pivot points of all the assets and stuff like that. You get duplicate objects and things like that. It's just much more efficient to do it in Unreal Engine. So yeah, that was a situation where the performance was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that certainly wasn't because of mental health. It was just like a performance thing. But I think that it's being able to spot the telltale signs is also being able to understand, it's about how people are reacting and how people are engaging with other team members as well.
Yeah.
If people are being passive aggressive or always being negative and being cynical and things like that, like it could be that they're overworked and stressed out or just not feeling it anymore. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I think that talking to is the thing to go for here. It's not an easy thing because it can be confused. I mean, depends on your vision of the things. It's really easy to confuse someone that is being lazy with someone that has mental health issues. At the same time, probably what it depends on what stands at the core of the company. If there is transparency, if there is being sincere with the other people you're working with, it's a responsibility of both to really speak clearly about the thing. And if it's someone is lazy, is right to show them the results they are getting and and talking with them about what they really want to do. I mean, that's how I will really face this. Because if they don't want to, there's no problem with that. It's much better. I mean, if you don't want to, don't do it. There's no point, not for you, then rather than for us to work with someone that is not really into it. It's better that he or she finds out a place where he feels more comfortable to be into, or eventually by talking with them, it comes out that they didn't get the vision, and that is another point in which you can talk together and understand whether really how to make them more into this. Sometimes they just have to take more responsibilities to find that they are into what they are already working in. Sometimes they have mental health issues. It's good that they take their breaks, take the time to think. We both go to different psychologists, but sometimes that helps also with work, with just all the things. As you said, you are talking with people that are around the world. You don't know how they live their life, what are the struggles. Sometimes if they know them well, and it's that's why also it's much easier to communicate and work with someone who have side to side in the same place.
This is why it's good as well, if you can afford it, is to have, once you get to a stage of growth in your company, when you have an HR manager who's not just responsible for recruitment and finding the right people for the team, but also maintaining the team and making sure that they're all happy and enjoying their work. Again, conflict resolution, and making sure that people are not getting sick of one another. And I mean, I've not really had that kind of situation because Fracture Labs never really grew to that size, but I've definitely worked at bigger companies where HR has been involved in, making speaking with irate staff members who are annoyed with the way things are being run, or issues with just issues with production or the team or finance or anything like that. So having an HR manager who's responsible for all those interpersonal relationships is something that will be really important when you're a kind of like mid-stage company size, I think. So that's one of the first things I want to get is somebody to help with all that kind of stuff. Once we grow.
I have one. Okay, there's another one before I go with mine. Did you find a good recipe for team building activity remotely that really brings people together? I think that
A good
watching,
recipe.
yeah, a good recipe. Yeah, yeah, there's a recipe,
Yeah,
but I
so
think there's a recipe for team building activity
brings.
remotely that really brings people together. So, have you found any activity that to create more team building, create a more one-size team?
Well, I mean, in our case, yeah, we test the game together, right? We test the game and we have fun. And you when you're not like just working on tasks and giving each other feedback on the tasks, you're actually getting to play the game that you've been working on and shoot each other and throw grenades at each other and things like that. That's quite good fun. You like there's loads of videos that we probably have archived on our Twitch channel where you can hear everybody running around laughing their heads off because they're having so much fun because they're actually playing the thing that they're creating.
Yeah.
So that's been really good. And then it's like it gives everybody a sense of achievement that it's hard work, but we're getting somewhere and it's fun to play. We're playing it and we're having fun, and that's what it's all about. It's all about having fun at the end of the day. So so that's definitely been a good thing. I'm trying to think of other things. No, I think that's the only one I can think of right now. But I mean, I think the question was related to like team building when people are working remotely, right?
Yeah, and that is a good
Yeah.
is a good question because that is kind of easier. It's never easy because to understand the team means to understand each single person that you have inside. So also when you are in the same location is not an easy thing to do, and remotely is even harder.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
I know that there's a lot of apps that you can download. I've noticed this in the VR thing as well, like VR chat and others, where you can meet up with people in the VR space and play silly games together and chat with each other and go to these meditation rooms and things like that. It's like you're having kind of like shared virtual experiences. These are kind of I can see how there's a lot of value for people to use them in any company, whatever sector they're in. For team building exercises, especially during a pandemic.
Yeah, and also if I can suggest something is to try to understand, for example, if they like something that you're not into, because everything must start from someone. And I don't know if the guy asking this question is the founder of the indie studio. Eventually, if you want to present yourself, that's great. But I think you eventually have to make the first step and try to go to someone else that is you work with and understand what they like. If they like watching movies, if they like playing a certain video game that you could even not like, but try to share time with them and make them teach you how to do the things that they like, because it's kind of playing it in their house and they feel comfortable doing that. So that could be the first step. And then you will find with time and knowing better the people you work with, what they really like, how they share better the time, and then create something unique for your team.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one of the final questions. If you have any other,
No.
Okay. Let's see. If you find yourself in the middle of the street, you find your copy, but much younger than you, like before starting with Decimated. What would you tell him apart from like slapping him in the face? No, no. What would you tell him?
It's funny because I know that there's just recently there was a post on Facebook which was exactly the same question. If you were to meet your 18-year-old self, what 3 words would you tell yourself? And and mine was buy more Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're more self-sufficient, because I think that when I mean obviously that's like it's an easy answer because then you're financially stable yourself because you invested in Bitcoin early, and then you don't have to rely on investors and publishers. You can do all the things yourself, and it's a lot easier because you're not having to always appease third parties in order to fundraise your project. So I think that, like for me, it would definitely be to make to do that, to like get more financially secure, to be able to do the things that I did without taking such a huge financial risk personally with my savings. But I think another thing that I would say is as I've described throughout this video so far as well is build the team first. build the team first and build the product later. Prototype the product. But I think that one of the mistakes that I've made with Decimated is trying to do it all myself and then showing a product which is kind of like a proof of concept, but it's like it's not good enough. Whereas if you have the team, the team with all the experience that they can, that's provable through their portfolios and their career, that's definitely the right thing. There's a million things I could tell myself from like 10 years ago. I guess that it's kind of more a rhetorical question, like not rhetorical, that's not the right word, but it's a question where you're like, what would you say to people who are 10 years younger? What you would say to them? I think that one of the most important things that I would say would be to learn to program in C++, because the amount of value that you have to be able to do things yourself and prototype things on the fly, and it's like being able to draw. I guess that you can kind of make this like you could spread it out a bit more. So it's not just about programming, but whether you're doing art or audio or programming, for example, is just to keep practicing. Keep on practicing all the time. Don't give up, because every year that you make progress, you're much further along than anyone else that doesn't even start trying. And it gets to the stage where you're able to develop products and create content, music or art that's people are like, how did you do this? This is amazing. How did you do this? You're like, because it took me 10 years to hone my skills to this level, to get to this level of quality that now I can do it a lot faster. But you have to start and you have to not give up. Too many people start things and they realize how difficult it is. And I'm not just talking about creative production. I'm talking about everything. Getting exercise, like doing random things like archery or whatever, like people do it once and they go, it's good, but it seemed quite difficult. I'm not going to do it again. Snowboarding, skiing, anything like that, So the most important advice is to just keep going. Don't give up. Never give up. Because you're going to die anyway. So you might as well try. So, you got to do.
You just quoted one of the, today we were having lunch and I set up on Instagram and found this post where it was, what do you say before making a bad decision apart from you only live once? And you just quoted one of those. I'm gonna die anyway, so let's do this.
Yeah.
So but that's
it. That's been my. I've always kind of thought that anyway. It's like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to desire constantly to have my own business and make games and do music production and try and build all the things that I really love, or am I always going to wish that I did it? You just got to do it, Time spending sitting watching Netflix videos and playing video games is time that you could be spending honing your skills and developing, doing personal development. I think, it's more important. So.
Couple of questions.
Yeah.
So, Brian.
I think, how to avoid burning out. This is more linked to the last question that you've made. So since you said I'm gonna die anyway, and I need to do as much as I can, how can you avoid burning out?
Yeah, because that's what we talked about at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
Is that you need to balance your time between work and relaxing, because as I said before, you have such a passion and drive to be successful, and everything else, is takes second priority to your success. You're going to work yourself into having health issues. Your body will eventually say, no, I can't handle this anymore. So you definitely have to take breaks for yourself, and you need to not work all year round. You have to take breaks. I think that having a good schedule, where you set time for yourself in the morning to, this is one thing I wrote on Facebook a while ago, is that the best way to be productive is to start your day well. If I would never have thought this. Like when I was like 18, 20 years old, I would sleep in all morning and wake up and feel groggy, and I was a much more nocturnal person then than I am now. But I think that as I've gotten older, what I've learned is that if I wake up early enough to be able to get some exercise and not look at the phone straight away, and then start thinking about emails and all the things I've got to do throughout the day, but instead take time to have a good breakfast and have a shower and get some exercise, so that then you get the blood pumping, and then you sit down and you do your work, but you set yourself a deadline. You stop and have lunch, which is something a lot of people will forget to do because they might have lunch at their computer, for example, and then they're just constantly working all the time. You get headaches, your eyes get sore. And then it's like nighttime, you've not even seen daylight, for example. You have to make sure that you have balance in life in order to not have burnout. And this is a big problem in the games industry. People always talk about, crunch and, having to do extended periods of work where they're working 10 hours a day and working weekends and things like that. When you have your own business, yes, you're always thinking about it all the time. You don't ever really get a break. And there have been times that I've gone abroad, for example, and to try and forget about work for a while, but it's really difficult to disconnect. It really is.
When you're
I think that it's really
so into it, it's when you are starting a company, also it's your own company. It's really hard to detach yourself from it. And one of the reasons that people burn out is the fact that your work becomes everything for you, and there is no other thing where you can put your mind onto and just be relaxed. So I didn't burn out totally, but I really found out at a certain point that I needed to create other things where I felt my value, which is not only the work, but I don't know, it could be reading, it could be going running, going to the gym, having a hobby, going basket or playing volleyball, playing maybe video games, kind of stuff can help, but you're still in front of a screen and you keep being in front of the screen all day from morning to evening. So maybe find something that we met a lot of artists that they really take time to just detach from the screen, because that is one of the things that burns you out a lot. I mean, you're working on a screen, but you really consume a lot of energy while you're into it. Yeah. So if you can find ways not to be in front of the screen, that can really help in avoiding burnout.
Absolutely. And the thing is that these days everybody is surrounded by social media news feeds of their friends who are doing yoga or meditation or getting different types of exercise or going to the gym and eating healthily, that kind of stuff. Like you have to have balance. It shouldn't always be about work all the time. Otherwise, you will eventually burn out. And I do think that exercise and trying to clear your head of thoughts, just for like a half an hour or an hour a day, really, really is beneficial, for sure. So, yeah.
We have another question about the hiring process.
Worst and best thing that you can do to get hired or not get hired.
What do you think? Like, you had to interview people to understand if they could come and work for you. Like, what's the worst thing that someone did that you said, all right, I'm not gonna take this person with me? And what's the best thing that you hear?
One of the worst things that I've had in the past was I remember we were advertising for like a 3D artist for our company, and there was a guy who applied he was doing sketches, and his portfolio was nothing to do with game design whatsoever. It was just that he was like doing sketches on his notepad, and he felt like he deserved a job as a 3D art director for a video game company. And so I politely told him, thanks for applying, but it's not really suitable for what we're doing. But good luck, and I hope that you get a job. And I advised him, that maybe you should, if you want to work for a company like ours, you should get an ArtStation profile, maybe work in some 3D software like Maya or 3D Studio Max or Blender or something like that. Work on that level of your portfolio because that's what we're looking for this job. And I said, best of luck. And he was like passive aggressive, like, no, best of luck to you, buddy. Because we rejected him, he was like upset with us because we didn't give him a job. And I was like, well, you're never going to get a job if that's your attitude, because it's clear that we're looking for somebody with these skills, and you've applied for the job and you don't have those skills, and so we've given you some honest feedback, and we've advised you on how you could get started in our industry. But to be passive aggressive about it and almost kind of bitter, is definitely not a good approach, because you're burning bridges there. It's like, burning bridges is a really bad idea. One of the best things to do. I'll go to another negative thing. Another negative thing is to constantly bombard people with being needy. Asking all the time, "Are you hiring? Can I get a job? I really want to work with your company." This kind of stuff. Again, that's going to put people off because you're going to seem needy. One of the best things to do is to be more passive and just casually update people, grow your network, and share your content. Not on an individual basis, but to add new content to your ArtStation and then share that on your social media accounts, particularly in LinkedIn, growing your network, but not being too aggressive. One thing I've learned over the last few years, because I've been involved in a lot of business development and networking and organizing partnerships. But I remember, when I first started, I was super aggressive. I was like, we want to work with you. Can we work with you? Like, we'd be the best partner, and all the others are irrelevant. We're the best guys, and it's not a good strategy. It doesn't work. People just get annoyed and then they remove you from their connections, So I think that being more passive and just, taking your time with it and just, people are going to recognize that your portfolio is adapting and that you're working on these projects, personal projects, you're working on your career, that kind of thing. People will take notice. Getting likes and comments on your posts on LinkedIn is really, really valuable, because then it echoes throughout the network. If you create something that people really like, a lot of people are going to see it. And then a lot of people are going to add you, and you're going to get recruitment companies adding you and saying, hey, you'd be really good for this company. So, then the recruitment team are going to do a lot of work for you, finding you the right position based on your skill set and based on your level, So, yeah. That's one of the first things that I did at the start of my career in the games industry was, apart from extending my network with all the game studios, the exec producers, the outsource managers, etc., was also networking with all of the recruitment agents as well. So then they recognized me and they knew what I was doing. Then they would always make offers. Oh, they've got a company that's in this, in Spain or in Germany. They're really looking for somebody with your experience. You're doing interviews all the time to develop your skills in interviews as well. Like, this is really, really good.
It's a lot about creating relationships. I mean, the prior thing is create a relationship, create a network, because that way people buy the relationship, they don't buy the product. It's always like that. I mean, apart from things that you can buy on Amazon where you don't have a relationship with Bezos, but you just buy the product at the supermarket. But eventually, when you're talking about services like this, where you present yourself as an artist, as a professional, really the thing is, show that you are a trustful person, show that you can take, there's no best thing, but I mean, you have to show that you are the kind of person that can fit the role. So study what's the role, be open to understand and talk with people that are inside to understand, even if that is a good role for you as a person, as a technical, as an artist, whatever. But you have to understand if you are the best fit for the company, because if you are the best fit for the company or a great fit for the company, you should work on how to make them understand that you are the great fit for that company. And that requires a lot of work, but just the easy way, being yourself, helps in this. So yeah, those are some things.
I think that as there's times in my career where I've taken I've done a job which I knew was a stepping stone towards something better in my career, and that's, I started in the games industry as a QA tester. Previously I'd been like an assistant manager for a shop, and I'd also been running lots of music events, working with record labels and that kind of thing. And being a game tester was like a lower salary job, but I saw it as a career move. Like, if I do this, then eventually I could get this type of job and then work towards that. So I think that you and I have discussed this in the past. It's like, if you think about where you want to be in 10 years, and then you're like, okay, in order for me to get to that point, how do I need to get there? And so you work back from that stage. Okay, if I want to be an exec producer at this big company, then I need to be a producer before that. And then before that, I need to be an assistant producer. And then before that, I need to be, you go backwards. So what career path am I going to carve out for myself over the next few years? Whichever career path it is, in order to make that first step. A lot of people think that, like, they're really good and they can jump in right at the top. Or sometimes people do, like they maybe start off in QA and then they become a QA manager and then they become a producer and then they're exec producer in like the space of 2 or 3 years because of how good they are, and because they're working in one company and developing those relationships with the team, and learning how everything works. But yeah, I think that sometimes you just got to do the jobs that you're not going to do forever, but it's a foot in the door.
Yeah.
This is talking to like the juniors who are like still trying to get in the industry, like internships, doing like QA testing. Even if you're like the best programmer or the best 3D artist in the world, start off as a QA tester and build that experience and learn how to do bug fixes or fix bugs, do bug reports and that kind of thing. And then it's just a stepping stone from there. So yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. There is another question, but what I'd say is I'm going to share the link to the Discord server. So any other question we can answer there. We can get to know each other with the people in the chat. So the push on seller effect is me, because I'm with the other account to see the comments. So just join there and we can continue chatting and know each other and understand also if there is anything in particular you want to know from us, from Stephen. Stephen is inside the server too. He's really active. So join us there. We will answer also the questions about skills, whatever, for interviews. We help guys with interviews. With the Blaze, we help. We talked with Steve about this too, and Steve helped us also connect with other people that are really into this industry. With Elder Blades, we help juniors get into the industry, understand how to go through interviews, how to present and sell themselves, how to create a great story that sells their skills and not just any project that you can put together. So eventually, for anything about that, just join the Discord server and we can continue chatting there, or you can just keep updated about whatever we do together, lives, calls, whatever. Steve, thank you very much for really everything. It was an amazing call as usual, honestly, because we end up talking about a lot of things. And I think that this can be really useful to the people starting a new business, knowing that.
Not only a new business, starting changing career.
Also,
that's
true.
Because
that's true.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of things that
apart
from that. Yeah. And AAA games, how to go through interviews, skills burnout, a lot of things.
Yeah.
So,
and 2 hours have flown by. I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, indeed. We can continue on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. And
thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
It was our
pleasure. Let's get back on Discord and chat there. Okay?
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, Steve.
See you there, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Tipo, non funziona. Ciao ragazzi.